Yes, yes. So, hello, everyone, and thank you for joining me for another episode of Pretty Moody, the podcast. I think we're going with Hot AF because that just covers all things in midlife. And today I am super excited to welcome our special guest all the way from across the ponds in the UK. We are bringing to you today the beautiful Miss Libby Stevenson. And we're going to be talking all things menopause, yoga, some crazy symptoms that's been coming up that we had in common
Mm.
that got us here today, and just
Yeah.
to live your best quality of life while you're on this journey. So, Libby, thank you again for being here today. And can you just tell a Pretty Moody community a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you for having me, Sherelle. You can hear from my accent, I'm from the US and I live in the UK now. I've been living here for 30 years, so this is home. But I'm originally from New York City and I'm a yoga teacher. And I came to yoga late in life. I was in my early 50s when someone started a yoga class around the corner from me. And I thought I'd join it. I had done all kinds of exercise and never found anything I loved. And so I did the yoga class and I quite liked it. And I then became a yoga teacher in my late 50s. And the reason why I did that was because at that time, I was going through empty nest and I was a stay at home mother. And as my children were leaving home, I had a lot of time on my hands now. So I thought I'll do the teacher training for personal development. I had no intention of teaching. And the teacher training was a lot more involved than I expected. So I thought I should do something with this. So I further certified in pregnancy and postnatal and menopause yoga, and this is where we are today. I also have a diploma in therapeutic well-being practice, which is a non-talking form of therapy. So I use the creative arts and I use yoga to help women express their feelings and emotions and process them. And I also have a degree in biomedical engineering, which is really, works really well with yoga because I understand how the poses and the breath work, the meditation, how it all works on the body. And so what I do now is because I benefited greatly from doing yoga in my 50s. I didn't know at the time I was going through perimenopause. And my symptoms were very mild. And the only thing I can point to is the yoga. I had always lived a very healthy lifestyle, but I added on this layer of yoga. And I didn't breeze through menopause, but it wasn't, I didn't feel the need to go to a doctor, so I was able to manage whatever I was experiencing through the many aspects of yoga. And so now I teach those, online, so that other women can access different aspects of yoga and help themselves.
Wow, that is power packed. Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. I heard so many nuggets, so many diamonds and everything that you said.
Thank
Thank you
you.
for all your offerings. And you know, I feel like in this when you arrive in this space of midlife, you really get there with blinders on. Like
Yeah.
you really
Yeah.
know, like, am I here? I heard you say you were in perimenopause and didn't know you were in perimenopause.
Exactly.
And that is happening a lot because
Yeah.
we're not really educated in women's health,
No.
in that
No.
area around what to expect. It's kind of
Hmm.
like it stops like puberty and then you hit a little
Yeah.
bit about pregnancy, but then going into any of the stages of menopause,
Yeah.
you're missing that mark. And I
Yeah.
also heard you say that empty nesting.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness. Like
Yeah.
huge too,
Well,
because a lot of times when we hit that spot, we have pretty much already endured or are in that end phase of perimenopause and trying
yeah.
to figure out what is it that I need, to survive. And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
those were some
Yeah.
interesting things, and I want to talk about them a little bit. So
Yeah. Well, I think for both of them, women don't talk a lot about their own health. There isn't a lot of talk about the experience of empty nest. What does that involve and how do I manage that? We don't talk about it. And I have to say, although there is a lot more talk now about the menopause, thanks to all the celebrities talking about it. There's still huge, amounts of women who know nothing about it. I'm always so surprised at the lack of knowledge a lot of women have about it. Because I'm in that world, you're in that world, and this is all we hear, and we
Right.
tend to think, oh,
Everybody knows.
everybody knows
Yeah.
this now,
At
and
least now,
instead,
everybody knows.
right? And it's surprising how many women don't have basic information still.
That's exactly right. It's surprising and it's scary
Yeah,
because we need
yeah,
at least the basic education and knowledge to be on the
yeah,
forefront. Um,
yeah,
Empty nesting stage, it's like you get there and you like, okay, who am I? Right?
yeah,
Like, and then you learn, okay, perimenopause, like
yeah,
what? Who am I there?
yeah,
It's like we're going through all of these life-changing transitions, and
mm,
we're in these stages where actually I feel we're losing a huge part of us, but we're also gaining, you know,
yeah,
so much more
yeah,
as well.
yeah,
And finding what you need when you arrive in those places is so, so important. The
yeah,
yoga, um,
yeah,
that right there, I'm pretty sure like once you kind of delve into that, that it was like pivotal
yeah,
for you and also filling that void and helping you come to that place of, okay, I'm this new woman now, I'm in this new phase now, I'm here empty nesting. You have all this time to really focus on yourself,
yeah,
the things that you want to do. But I find that sometimes when we don't know, we kind of shy away from it and kind of can sit in this little
exactly.
space, right?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
how did yoga help you with that?
Well, like I said, when I went through it like 10 years ago, no one talked about it. And I knew that this stage of life was going to happen. I mean, I knew that. I just assumed periods end, but I thought, how does that end? Right? Because there's a month between them. Like, do you just wake up and they're gone? Like, how does that end? And I couldn't find any information, any books. There was nothing out there. And for me, I just thought periods end and that's menopause. Like I had no clue about all the other symptoms. So I was experiencing symptoms, things like I had continuous UTIs, and I never had that before. But at the time, I was doing a lot of yoga for my teacher training, and I just thought maybe it's because I'm in these yoga leggings, and I'm sweating, and it's creating bacteria. So I just put it to that. But there were other symptoms, and I just assumed, oh, maybe I'm just being weird, like anxiety driving, which that is a weird one. And now in the past couple of years, I heard lots of women experiencing this, not just anxiety driving, but anxiety like for things that they were able to always do, like get into an elevator or go down an escalator. And, because anxiety manifests itself differently in different women. So I did have symptoms, but they were mild enough for me that I could manage and kind of like put them aside and think that's weird, but okay. And I think the yoga just helped me manage it in a calmer way.
Mm.
So when these things were happening, I kind of accepted them for what they were. Oh, maybe I'm just being weird, or maybe it's because I'm doing too much yoga, or maybe it's, I'm not sleeping at night because I'm worried about this kid going to college or what have you. So I kind of rationalized what I was experiencing. But at the same time, my symptoms I didn't struggle with them because many women do struggle terribly. And that wasn't the case for me. And like I said, I think it's a combination of living a healthy lifestyle and adding the yoga on top, which had a calming effect and had a grounding effect. And as you were saying with the empty nest, it's a time of life where when you come to menopause, you don't just have those physical symptoms hitting you at once, and they're unusual. We've never had them before. So you start thinking, am I dying? Like, is everything breaking down all at once? So you have all these physical symptoms. You don't know where they're coming from and what's happening. Then you also it's that stage of life where you're also aging. So you have aging parents, you have empty nest, which is what I was going through. Maybe, at that age, you're coming through a crossroads in your career. or in your relationships. So there's so much coming at you at once,
Much.
and you can really lose sight of who you are. So where do you ground yourself? Where do you come back to you? And I think that's where the yoga helped me, that it allowed me that space to pause and just keep everything that was going on in the world away for an hour, and then I could regroup, so to speak,
Yes.
and then I could face the world again in a bit calmer, and I had that bit of space from it all, even if it was just for an hour.
Right.
And as a result, I was able to manage what I was experiencing in a calmer, more grounded way. And I think, for anyone listening who's thinking, oh yeah, well, that's fine for you because you do yoga. I'm older. I've never done that. I think there's that myth of you have to be young and bendy to do yoga. But like I said, I started in my early 50s only because someone around the corner started a class. So it was convenience for me. But on top of the convenience, teacher was also my age. So I saw a reflection of me, and it was a beginner class. It was a small class. So I think all of those elements combined were encouraging, and I continued going because I think if that yoga teacher had been a 20-year-old doing headstands, I
Right.
wouldn't be here today. And so, anyone listening who's thinking, oh, yoga sounds great, but I'm too old or I'm not bendy. I think the key is finding the right teacher you can gel with,
Right.
whose style matches your temperament, as
Right.
well as the type of yoga. There's many different types of yoga, so it involves experimenting. I got lucky on the first try, basically.
Yeah.
I just got very lucky. But for other people, it might be exploring different yoga teachers and different you know yoga types of classes, and finding what works for you, and doing it consistently, and not expecting one class once a month to do anything. Just like any other form of exercise, although yoga is not exercise, but you need to do it consistently, at least once a week, right? So that's the message I'd like to get out, because I think for a lot of women, as we age, yoga becomes really important, not just to help us manage our menopause symptoms, which, breathing techniques are cooling and calming, and the poses can help with balance and coordination and gut health, but also to give us that introspection, that reflection on, I'm at a new stage of life, and how do I want to go forward? Who is this person that I'm going to take along with me forward? Because up until this point, we've been focusing a lot on, in my case, children or careers. And so the things we loved doing had to take a back burner.
Hmm.
But now a lot of that is changing, and we find ourselves, well, maybe I can go back to that and explore that again, because now my children are leaving home, I have more time, what have you. So that's where the yoga is really helpful, not just physically,
Hmm.
but also from an emotional point of view. Yeah. And I think that gets lost in a lot of the discussion about menopause, the emotional impact of it. Because as you said, a lot of women, think, who am I, and what is happening to me? Like there's this whole self-doubt,
Right.
which affects your confidence. And
Exactly.
so the yoga allows you to really connect back to that person who's still there, but just is lost
Right.
in the physical symptoms and life and everything else that's happening. It's overwhelming.
Yes.
So, the yoga can help to ground you in a way that other forms of exercise don't. Like I do the strength training, I do reformer Pilates, and I do them because they're good for me and, for my bones and my health.
Right.
But there's a lot of creating tension. We're creating a lot of tension. We're lifting, we're holding. It's up and down, it's forward and back. Whereas in yoga, sometimes we don't move. We get into a pose and we stay there. So it's not necessarily movement that we do in yoga. There's stillness, there's introspection, and actually awareness of where you are in space and how does that feel, and are you in the right alignment, and blah blah blah. So all of those elements that you don't get in exercise, and that's why yoga is really helpful at the stage of life, because it helps you to pause, and reflect. Even if you are moving and everything is slow, and there's a reason for that because we're moving with the
That's
breath. And
right.
yeah, and it's just that connecting back to self at a time of life when you don't feel any connection to yourself.
Completely disconnected.
Yeah,
Completely. And I want to unpack a few things. The anxiety that has been crazy. It has been
yeah,
crazy, especially if you're someone who have never experienced it before.
yeah. Me?
Yeah, yes. And I had talked about on one of my podcast episodes, there was a lady that I spoke to, and she had to get a little dog because she developed driving anxiety. And
Yeah,
and
me
it's
too.
like you said, it's like the craziest things that you don't even think about or associate with being like a menopause symptom or, something that's happening to you because you're in this phase of your life. It's so many other things other than just the normal symptoms that we hear about, the hot flashes,
Yeah,
the
yeah,
swings and things like that. Um,
yeah,
and knowing that you can grieve because we have to really go through that grieving process of what we
yes,
what we used to know, what we used to be, the things that we used to do. And like you said, you're finding things that are going to help center you, in this
yeah,
stage of your life because it's not the same anymore. Like we have all of these
no,
new things happening, like you
yeah,
the empty nesting, the taking care of the parents, you might be,
yeah,
like you said, transitioning your careers. You might wake up one day and decide the thing that you loved for so long, it no longer serves you anymore. So you
yeah,
gotta grieve that too, and then
yeah,
you're not,
yeah,
like you said, is it me? Like, what is going on? Like, am I okay?
yeah, yeah,
And getting to that point where we understand that, yes, we are okay. We're
yeah,
going to be okay. And as long as we allow these transitions to unfold
exactly.
and tapping into, I used to do yoga. Full disclosure, I used to do yoga um, years ago and I got away from it. Then I started going back to hot yoga and I was consistent with it. But
Mhm.
I'm definitely at a place in my life where it's certain, like you said, you can do all the other workouts and all the other things,
Yeah,
but you need that um, relatability, right? Like going, like you said, finding that person that you can relate with that's teaching
yes,
class, and you because of course
yeah,
we see yoga and we think you got to be all bendy bendy and you got to
yeah,
because you see
yeah,
the younger generation out here
yeah,
doing it, and but I love what you brought forward about it. It's not all like that, right?
no,
It's
no,
going in, it's finding that instructor that you can relate to and
yeah,
learning to add these different elements into our lives that we need right now. It's sometimes
yeah,
things that we do that until you do it, you don't know how much you needed to do it.
exactly.
And
Yeah,
that's what
exactly.
that sounds like to me. It's like,
Yeah,
you again, all the strength training we need, we need that. We
yeah, we
need our
need that.
muscles and bones and everything to be healthy. But this yoga just adds like a whole different element of,
Exactly.
center and addressing your well-being in like a totally like different way.
Yeah, it's a holistic form of movement because in yoga we move the whole body. We don't have arm days and leg days. It's whole body days. And as a result, all of the systems of the body are involved. And actually, it's the perfect form of movement to do in menopause because all of the systems of the body in menopause are affected by the decline in estrogen. So you have here, it's the perfect combination of movement with your symptoms. How do you address all of the symptoms you're experiencing in menopause? Because you experience them all at once. You don't get one, it goes away, and then another one. You're experiencing three or four of them all at once.
Yep.
So by doing yoga, you can address and ease or manage all of them at once. And I think that's what worked for me. But you were mentioning about anxiety, and as someone who has never experienced it before, same here. And I think anxiety is actually the most common symptom of the menopause, not hot flushes. I never experienced hot flushes, but I did experience anxiety.
Listen.
And
It
yeah, and I think and anxiety also comes in different, manifests itself differently in
really
different
does.
women.
It does.
So I think that's why it's the number one symptom, actually. And as we know, menopause is caused by this decline in estrogen, which estrogen keeps cortisol in check. So when it starts to decline, cortisol is out of control, and we all experience some form of anxiety. I even experienced heart palpitations.
Oh, that was horrible for me. I had
Literally
that one day and thought I was
attack.
having a heart attack.
Yes,
I woke
yes.
up and I was like, "Hey, today's the day. It's over."
Never experienced anything like that before. I was walking with my husband to meet friends for dinner, and I said to him, "I think I have to sit down on the curb, and you have to call an ambulance because I'm having a heart attack." And so I sat down, and I just calmed down, and then it went away. But boy, that was scary,
It really
really
and
scary.
and these are the things that are not really addressed. And a lot of women that are to your point with the anxiety that are experiencing anxiety, whatever way it shows up for them, because like you said,
Yeah,
it's going to show up different for every woman. I really don't think that they're educated enough in this menopause arena to associate it with menopause. So you get to
yeah,
that point where you may be having
yeah,
some
yeah,
type of bout with anxiety and you just
yeah,
think that you're losing your mind. Like what is
yeah,
you know what I mean? Because I've never
exactly.
had this before. And
Yeah,
when it's things that you're normally able to do and they become a issue or it's debilitating for you,
yeah,
you cannot face this thing. I mean, it can be as simple.
yeah,
I know we talked about on one of the episodes before someone just going up and down the steps. She,
yeah,
she did
yeah, yes,
anxiety from something as simple as going up and down the steps.
yes.
It's
I'm
like,
hearing that more too. Yeah, people getting down to the last step and having to hold on.
I mean, and it's like the weirdest thing. But again, these things are showing up regularly. And this is why we got to keep fostering conversations like this, to speak about it. I know when I
Yeah.
reached out to you, you had did a post and you were talking about the dizziness and the nausea.
Yes.
And experienced that for the first time about maybe 2 or 3 years ago. And it felt like I was dealing with morning sickness, like all over again. And I was like,
Yeah.
it's waking up, just feeling nauseous. And I'm like, what is going on? At first,
Yeah.
I'm thinking, okay, maybe it was something I ate the night before that did
Right.
you know what I mean? Like, let me go chew on some
Yeah.
ginger or make some ginger tea or something to try to get this in order. But then it
Yeah.
happening over and over and over again. And I was like, wait a minute. And then I started doing my research and the dizziness came. And it actually was happening while I was working out. So I kind of changed my workout up a little bit and was like, you know what? Just walk on the treadmill, take it easy
Yeah.
a bit, do some little
Yeah.
inclines, and then maybe you'll be okay. Nope. I
Yeah.
had to stop the treadmill because
Wow.
everyone's thinking you're about to either all over this gym or you're
Yeah.
going to pass out.
It's all over. Yeah. Yeah. It's scary, isn't it? Because it's not one that's really discussed. I mean, I've heard vertigo
Mhm.
as a symptom,
Yes.
but it's very sudden too, isn't it? Like for me, it was while teaching a class and
Very
just
sudden.
from one pose to the other. And luckily, pose I was on when I experienced the room spinning, I was on my hands and knees, which is very grounding.
Yes.
But it's what do you do if you're teaching a class? I just had to keep going. So we did cat cow, and I focused on the breath and I slowed everything down and I thought, let's just get through this. And I did. But it's the idea that where did it come from?
Right.
It's sudden, it's disorienting. And like I said, luckily I was on my hands and knees and I didn't fall over, but it could be that. And I've had it in the past where it comes and it goes, it comes and it goes. And it never really bothered me because I hadn't been teaching. But when it happens when you're doing something,
And that's it. When you're in the middle
it
of
can
doing,
happen.
that's
It
right.
can happen, and I just want to mention that dizziness is not just menopause, obviously. It
Right.
could be due to a number of other things, just like any of the other menopause symptoms. So
Yeah.
anyone listening who says, oh yeah, I experienced dizziness, always get someone to check it out and confirm that it is menopause, and not just because I think a lot of women say, oh, that's a symptom of menopause. I can just ignore it.
Right. And
You
just
should
blow it
never
off.
ignore.
Yes. Yes. You definitely want to make sure that you are, any symptoms that you're having, that you're
Yeah.
checking with your healthcare provider and making sure that you are canceling out any major things that can
Right.
come up. In
Yeah.
menopause, we have so many symptoms, and it's easy to get misdiagnosed, because
Yeah,
they mimic a whole bunch of other things that
that's right.
happen to us. But yes,
Yeah.
I think for me, like not being able to control, what's happening,
Yeah.
that's been like a roller coaster in menopause because we're used to
Yeah.
like being able to have control of what's going on with us. And this is why again the yoga is so important because you
Yeah.
have to kind of like bring yourself to, center a little bit and have a little bit more control over what's going on. But when you're in the
Mhm.
middle of, I couldn't imagine teaching a class and you're dealing
Yeah.
with this dizziness. Like did it go away completely? Like what did you
You
do to
know,
help it?
because I slowed down and I just focused on my breathing and I stayed close to the ground. So I changed my class. I didn't stand up at any point and I just stayed close to the ground. Problem was that then I decided to lie on my back and like do bridge pose. And when I put my head down, the room was spinning again. And I just thought, okay, close your eyes and just teach, just focus on the move. So it was tricky, but I managed by just staying down on the floor, basically. And therefore I felt I'm not going to fall over. I'm
Right,
not going to, because I'm on the floor.
right,
Um, and so I just stayed as close to the ground as possible and focused on some breathing. I think I sat up then, and then we just did some breathing, like a meditation and breathing, and then we just lied down in shavasana. So it wasn't the class I had planned, but they don't know that.
right. And you
They
were
don't
able
know
to
that.
pivot. Yes, you were able to pivot to help,
Yeah,
bring some control back. Um,
yeah. But
because
the thing about yeah.
no, go ahead.
Oh, but the thing about yoga, you were saying about how you felt you had lost control with all these symptoms. Thing about yoga is that it also teaches you self-acceptance, and accepting where you are. And when we start doing that, and we do that just organically, it just kind of happens organically through the yoga that you start to accept whatever is happening. And not that it makes everything better, but you stop fighting.
That's
And when
right.
you stop fighting and you stop resisting, you lean in
That's
and
right.
you start looking for ways and solutions to help you as opposed to, I don't want to deal with that.
That's right.
And suddenly, not that things open up and become beautiful and rainbows, but it becomes a little bit easier to manage
Right.
if you start, accepting and saying, okay, this is where I'm at. How do I handle this? What am I going to do to help myself through this? And like I said, that, it's the way yoga teachers speak in a class that we talk, the way we speak helps with acceptance of where you are. Letting go is another concept, philosophical concept that gets woven into the classes. Because we tend to hold on to who we were.
Yeah.
What's happening? I don't like this. Bring me back to where I was. But we're changing, just like when you go through puberty and you go through pregnancy, you
I say that.
change
I
as a
say this
person.
is our second puberty, or third, or
Yeah,
fourth, or fifth, like whatever number you want to number it. But
exactly.
you're so right, and I feel that accepting, in menopause, in whatever phase that you're in, it just really opens up the door for you to um and not to say that it's always going to be enjoyable, but you're
No.
okay with inviting in what is coming because it's coming anyway. So
Yeah.
you're okay with that. And I believe
Mhm.
that, and I speak all the time about us having a menopause like toolbox, a toolkit or whatever, because
Yes.
it's
Yeah.
not going to be just one thing that we're going to need to help us in this journey. We're going to need several different things, to help us
Yeah.
to lean on or to pull out that toolbox and be like, okay, today, this is where I'm at
Yeah.
today, and this is what's going on with me today, and I need this because I'm experiencing X, Y, and Z. And I think that
Yeah.
yoga is a great tool to have in our
It
menopause.
is. Yeah.
So
And
many.
there's Yeah, and there's different aspects to yoga that I think people realize. There is movement. Like I said, there's also stillness, there's meditation, there's breathing techniques, and all of these help us with the physical, but also the emotional impact
Yes.
of this change. And yeah, so there's a lot we can tap into different aspects of yoga to help us when we need it. Like, if you have a hot flush or anxiety, even like the breathing techniques can help with that. And the other thing that you mentioned about accepting and how that's one of the things that can be in our toolbox is that when you accept, it also it almost helps to ease your symptoms in that it lowers your anxiety in a way. When you start to think, okay, this is the way it is,
Right.
I trust in the wisdom of my body. It's almost like your body says, thank you.
Yeah.
I can do what I need to do now. Um,
Right.
and this might sound all airy fairy, but it has helped me.
No,
This is what's helped
it
me.
doesn't.
So,
And I truly believe that. I truly believe that because number one, this journey is ever evolving, right? And
yeah,
it can be ever evolving in an hour. You
yeah,
can you can start off at one point and you can end up at another point. But I
yeah,
think that the goal is for us to have the best quality of life while we're on this journey. And
yeah,
and yes, just accepting, where we are and the changes that our body is going through
yeah,
and embracing it. Embrace
yeah,
it. This is menopause people,
yeah,
we can pull out all the negative aspects. I mean, they're
yeah,
right there. We can easily do that. But there's a lot of good, also. I think
yeah,
if we take the time to get to know us right
yeah,
now as this new woman, embarking on this fresh
yeah,
journey and finding out what is it that I need. Because
yeah,
and as I mentioned earlier, there are things that we were doing before that don't serve us anymore.
yeah,
You know,
yeah,
we, we
yeah,
want change, and I think change is great, and we need to welcome it,
yeah,
embrace her, learn her,
yeah,
nurture her, give her what she needs,
yeah,
and that emotional part of
yeah,
menopause, the psychological part, I think
yeah,
really, really needs to be highlighted and
yeah,
and addressed because it really starts there. Like
yeah,
we can deal with that. We can get this body, into the place
yeah,
that it needs to be. But there's a lot of things that's going on emotionally that, impact.
yeah,
And
definitely, definitely. And I would like to see more of that
yes,
being spoken about because at the moment there's a lot of focus on the physical, which makes sense.
right.
But, you know, if we can get a grasp on the emotional part of it, then it'll help us with the physical part of it. Because anytime I feel anxiety or anything, and I just say to myself, you know, this is what my body needs to do at this moment, it always makes me feel better,
That's right.
and I know it's just psychological, but I just feel better giving myself that little pep talk.
That's
Yeah. And and the
that's
hormone is yeah. And the hormone estrogen is also that caring hormone, and that's what we do is when we care for others. And as it declines, the theory is that now not that we care less about others, but there's more of looking after ourselves now.
Yes.
We have less of that hormone that
That's
makes us
right.
want to care for others. So, and it comes at the perfect time because there are less people for us to care about. Our
And
children
we
are
need it.
adults, and
We need it. We need it
yeah,
more than they need it.
yeah, exactly.
Haven't we done enough?
Exactly. We've done enough. And yeah, so now it's our time. And I'm sure a lot of women listening to this are thinking, "Oh, I don't buy into that." But yeah, think about it, think about how your life is changing and how now there is more space for you. There is more space for you.
That's right. And I believe too, and I'll use that word grief and grieving again. I think that we need to properly, grieve that old us so that we
Yeah.
can really stand in, the truth of this new woman that we are becoming on this midlife journey because
Yeah.
it's not going to skip any of us. Like
No.
we're all going to get here,
Yeah.
we can be so blessed, right? To get
Yeah.
here and arrive and
Exactly.
life, we can really hone in on what is it that I need for myself so that I can thrive. When you were talking earlier and you were saying about doing the exercise and like the strength training
Yeah.
and I was just watching you and it's like that's how we've been going through life.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
kind of like holding on and not
Holding
being
on, trying to
able
be
to release.
strong.
And yes, and now is that time to just let it go. Let
Yeah.
it go. So that we can
Yeah.
experience like these great
Yeah.
offerings that are coming in for us. And I'm a firm believer in yes, how we speak to ourselves and the things that we say,
Yeah.
definitely can help us tremendously. So when
Oh, mind over matter. Absolutely.
yes, for sure. So when you're saying like, oh, they might look at it like, no, it's not that. I really think that it's important for us to say, you know what, this is what my body needs right now. This is
Yeah.
where I'm at right now, and this is what it is. And learning to meet yourself there so that you can do whatever that next thing is that you need to do, to help
Yeah.
yourself out in that moment. Yeah,
Yeah.
firm
Yeah.
believer.
Exactly. Yeah. And I think, like you were saying, we've been doing this for years. We've been in this tension, trying to do everything for everyone, care for everyone, be as strong as we can be to support others. And through yoga, you can physically let go. When you're in a pose and you're not moving, the body has to let go. And you'll find that it does start to let go and you get either lower or something, depending on the pose you're in. And it's interesting how the longer you stay in stillness, the more the body realizes I can just let go. And when you finish a yoga class, I mean, like all forms of movement, you feel better afterwards, right? Because you've released that tension. But with yoga, it really lasts longer than just the time you spent on the mat. And it's because in yoga, like I said earlier, we move all parts of the body and we're really twisting and turning and bending and we're moving in ways that move the nervous system, the spine. We move the spine in all different directions. So we reset that nervous system. And as a result, that feeling lasts longer than just after the class. So you'll feel it. And that's what happened to me, that after I would do a yoga class and I was going regularly, I really started noticing the benefits. And it was emotional and it was mental and it was, um, you know, psychological as opposed to just physical. And I thought this is really interesting. The other thing I noticed that happened to me, which is really interesting, was I'm originally a New Yorker. And I was not really in tuned or tuned to other people. I was very much into my own head and my own body. And through yoga, I started not feeling other people's feelings, but I could sense what they were feeling when they spoke to me, whereas before I never could. And that's because of the yoga, which in the way we move, we tune not just to self, but also to others. And that's a really beautiful thing as we go and age, that we can really tune into how other people are feeling and kind of help them along the way, if that makes sense.
It makes
But
total sense, and I love that. I absolutely love that. What made you want to go from just going to the class to now I want to be an instructor?
well, you know what? I wanted to know why I was feeling so good.
Mm,
And I thought doing the yoga teacher training would explain it to me. I thought they would give me scientific evidence as to why we feel good, which yoga teacher training has nothing to do with that. But I didn't know that.
okay.
So I did it for personal development. I thought I want to know why. Let them tell me why. Well, they didn't, because that's not what yoga teacher training is all about. They're teaching you to be a yoga teacher and how to do the poses and how to teach the poses. And so I had to do that research on my own. But I found that the teacher training I assumed would be really light and fluffy, and it wasn't. And so I thought, oh, okay, I did this for myself. I wasn't going to teach anyone. I just wanted to know why I was feeling better. And I didn't get that. And so I thought, well, I should do something with this because it was pretty intense training.
Mhm.
And I thought who do I want to teach though? Who am I going to teach? I don't want to teach 20-year-olds who can do
Right,
headstands
right,
because I can't do them. I'm afraid of them. So
right.
I thought about who I was going to teach. And I thought I could add value to pregnant women and new moms because I was a mother of four and my children were now leaving home and I felt with my experience I could probably share that wisdom with them.
Right.
And so I had to do additional certifications in pregnancy and postnatal. And it was interesting in yoga in London. In order to become a yoga teacher, you have to audition because there's so many of us. So you
Okay.
go to an audition and they tell you have like 3 minutes and you have to do something.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, 3 minutes, but you're there with 50 other people and you can bring your own music or what have you. You have 3 minutes to show your stuff. And before I did my certifications in pregnancy and postnatal, I'm walking in as a 58-year-old woman. I've got clothes on. I'm not half naked like the other girls. And I never got hired. I was never hired. And when I did my certifications in pregnancy and postnatal, which I did one after the other, I got a job in a week. It
Wow.
was almost the universe said, yeah, this is where you
This is
belong.
for
It's
you.
not, yeah.
Yeah. Wow, that's
So
awesome. That is awesome. And now
it's
you have a focus
interesting.
on menopause yoga. Is that correct?
Yeah, because, well, you know what happened during COVID? Everything shut down. All the yoga studios shut down. So I was stuck at home and I did further certification in yoga for menopause. And I thought, oh, I'll go on Instagram and promote myself. That's what all the other yoga teachers were
Right.
doing, stuck at home. But I was a little late to the party. So I thought, okay, how do I differentiate myself from these other yoga teachers? I thought I'll do it through yoga for menopause. And that's how I built my following because no one, at the time, it was in 2020, and
That's
this was just bubbling up. And so I found this community of people who were just starting to talk about it. There I was with my yoga. And yeah, people were stuck at home and they kind of gravitated to it. And so I've stuck on that. But I have to say, all three stages of a woman's life, pregnancy, postnatal, and menopause, are very similar. There's physical changes, there's psychological changes, emotional changes.
that.
They're all the same. And you know what? Nobody is sleeping. That's the number one complaint in all three
Oh,
groups.
wow. Wow. Wow.
So,
But it makes sense. And
yeah.
yes, 2020, that was when I actually got thrown into surgical menopause. It was like right after the pandemic.
Right.
My business had just opened back up. We were shut down for like 3 months. And I might have been there for like 2 weeks at work. And then I got the news that I had to have like surgery like right away. And
Wow.
that's what prompted me to start Pretty Moody because, like you said, there all this buzz that we have today, it was not
Yeah.
happening just 5 years ago. Like I could not find hardly anything out there um,
Yeah.
for support, for resources, advocacy, community.
Mm.
It was just a huge void. And that's when I said, you know what? We are all going to, arrive at menopause, perimenopause at some day,
Yeah.
somehow, some way. and we need more resources and support. So that's what
Yeah.
made me bring
Wow.
Pretty
So
Moody.
you were just thrown into it through surgical menopause. Like I went through it naturally. So
Yeah.
it came on when it was supposed to come on, and it's a gradual thing. Whereas you were
Oh,
just,
hit like a freight train.
yeah.
And it
Oh my.
time I was trying to talk to my doctor. I had 2 weeks to prepare for my surgery. And I was trying to just cram and read and look for resources and talk to women. First of all, nobody wanted to talk about it at all whatsoever. I'm a hairstylist with over 30 years in the beauty industry. So I was servicing these women who I knew were, going through menopause.
Yeah.
I said, you know what? Maybe this is the opportune time to start having these conversations with them.
Yeah.
And they were like, no, we don't talk about that. Or
Yeah.
I'm going through that. Or no, I didn't have that. Or, you know,
Yeah.
it was just such a huge void. And yes, we have like, all of the celebrities that are coming forward talking about menopause. And I think that that's great because they're using their platform and they have the reach, but there's
Yeah.
still such a void um
Yeah.
in such like
Mm,
space of women that are not getting the information as we spoke of earlier. And
yeah.
it's just important that you're doing what you're doing, you know what I mean? And the other women like us are out here just
Yeah.
organically moving in this space and trying to educate and bring forth our knowledge because it is a lot. And I don't do HRT. I don't knock women who want to do it. I feel like if that's what you need, that's what you need to
Okay.
do.
Yeah.
But it's just been one of those things that I just was not, it wasn't for me. I just was like, no, that's not the path that I want to take. I want to just try more,
Yeah.
the natural
No.
and holistic, route. And I also found though, during that time and that 2 weeks time that I had, um, I found back then that the UK had way more resources,
Yeah.
support, advocacy. There was so much more
Yeah.
conversation happening in the UK than it was.
Yeah.
Why do you
Yeah. You're
think
right.
that is?
Well, I think there was this one well, she's a celebrity. She used to be a model TV presenter who was doing these weekly, she was going through it, and
Mhm.
she was doing these weekly Instagram lives with a menopause doctor. And that just got so much traction.
Uh,
And then through her, um, yeah, she started inviting other people on her Instagram lives and opening up the conversation. But it's interesting. You're right that people didn't want to talk about it, and I think it's because people associated menopause with aging.
yep,
And, there's that whole narrative of anti aging and be youthful forever. And when you age, you're just, nobody needs you anymore. And so the idea that if I acknowledge I'm going through the menopause, I'm acknowledging I'm aging, I'm acknowledging that I'm past it and over the hill and, not useful to anyone. But I'm hoping that that idea changes because actually a lot of women in menopause start businesses.
yep,
They pivot and they change and they realize that's not what I want to do, and actually this is what I want to do. um yeah, so yeah, but you're right that the UK was the one who started the conversation,
it was
and
big.
then it was, yeah, and then it was US at a slower pace, and now Australia is coming
Yeah,
on too. But there's still other countries where there's no mention about it, that no one wants to talk about it. Yeah.
great. I just don't want to feel like you have to be like a celebrity or some high
No,
valuable
no.
influencer to be able to reach, the woman
Right.
that need to be reached because half the world is going through menopause. And
Yeah.
we that's just the reality of it. And everybody
Yeah.
needs to get with the program.
And
Um,
everyone experience, everybody's experience is different. And
yeah,
I'm actually noticing that, the platform, the social media platform I'm on most is Instagram. It's becoming, there's more and more smaller accounts now by women talking about their experience. And I think that's really good. And
yes,
I think, you will find your people, and just having a community it can really help you with your symptoms, knowing you're not alone.
That's exactly right. That's big right there. And that was my primary reason for starting my community. It was because I didn't want women to feel like I felt. I didn't want women to feel like I don't have anywhere to go to. I don't have anyone
Yeah,
relate to, and I'm over here dealing with all of this, which I don't know what it is that's going on with me. So that's
yeah,
why that was my main reason, just having like that sense of community.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah. Brilliant.
What is your feeling on the HRT?
I think it's great for some women. I'm not on it either. Because, like I said, I was able to manage my menopause symptoms. And so I'm not on HRT, but I would never advocate against it just because I'm not on it. And I
Right,
think it's very helpful to many women. But I think that women who take HRT shouldn't think they can just take HRT and forget everything else. You still have to eat well, and you have to sleep, and you have to, do the strength training. So the two go together. So it's a case of you can take HRT or not. That's a choice.
right.
The lifestyle changes are a must.
Yes.
You have to cut back on your alcohol. You have to stop smoking. All of those things still have to happen. But the HRT is a choice. The
Right.
lifestyle is a must.
I believe
Yeah,
that wholeheartedly. And like I said, I think that every woman has to find what works for her and do what's best for her to have
correct.
quality of life on her menopause and midlife journey. But to your point, lifestyle change is everything because we can't
Yeah.
keep doing like the same things and expecting different, results.
No,
And we have to
no,
take care of ourselves differently. We're not in our 20s and 30s anymore. So,
no,
we can't
no.
do those things that served us then. It's like, okay, again,
Yeah,
learning, who this new beautiful person is and who she's becoming, and now what serves her now, at this
yeah,
point. So yes,
yeah.
I'm all for that. Yes.
And we have to remember that as women, we don't just have the menopause that, quite frankly, is working against us. That decline in estrogen is affecting every part of our body. And we have to be proactive with our health. But we also have aging.
That's right.
We have aging is affecting our body. So we
Right.
have these
Right.
two things.
That's
Yeah,
right.
these two things that are hitting us. And actually, now at my age of 63, I move more now than I ever have. I move every day in some way. I exercise, I do yoga, I move I go for walks.
You said
I
63. You said 63?
63, my dear. Yeah, yeah.
63 where?
And I move more than I ever have. And actually, there, traditionally, as women age, they move less.
That's right.
They kind of retire from work, they sit more, they stay at home. No, it's the opposite.
Yep. This is
Because,
got to get you have to do more to get more.
yeah, yes, you have to do more to get more.
Do
And
more to
and
get
just to
more.
exactly. And it's almost like when I don't exercise, let's say I take a day off, it's almost like harder than to go back. Like every day, it's a longer recovery.
I just said that to my oldest daughter, who's actually she's about to be 32 next month. And I just told her that the other day. I said, I was in like a little, just I don't feel like it. Just wanted to move,
Yeah,
just in the mood. I just didn't feel like it. And I succumbed
yeah,
to the I don't feel like it. But I told her, I said, it is horrible because I already know it's going to be 10 times more work mentally, physically,
yeah,
to get myself back into that space of
yeah,
my routine. So it's
yeah.
like, yes, it's okay to give yourself a break, but it's also like that mind over matter thing. It's like, okay,
Mm,
no, like it's always harder to jump back on the bandwagon than it is to get off of it.
yeah, it is. It
Yeah.
is. Yeah. So whoever is listening to this, just start by walking more. If you, because a lot of women come to menopause and they haven't exercised or moved in
Right.
years, right?
Right.
And now there's all this talk, oh, you have to start lifting weights. Well, if you haven't moved in years, where do you start? It's like, what? So just start walking,
Yeah.
just start with walking.
That's really good because that can be very intimidating for women
Yeah.
when they're hearing, you know, just you gotta get out there and start lifting because your body, you're going to lose muscle and you need this and then it just like, no, I'm not doing anything at all. So to hear, yes, just start walking. And what is some advice that you can give women who maybe have been wanting to get into yoga? I know we talked
Okay.
a little bit earlier, but
Hmm.
you're a little intimidated by that too because of what
Yeah.
it looks like. So, what can
Yeah.
some nuggets we can leave the woman with on how they can break into,
Yeah.
yoga? Because we've learned during this podcast that we need it, ladies.
That's
It's not it.
well,
We need yoga. Yoga is our friend.
that's well, that's a really good question. And I would say, thanks to COVID, and I know this is probably the only positive that came out of it, is a lot of people were drawn to yoga because they were all anxious about what was happening in the world. So there was this, it blew up on YouTube, all of these yoga teachers, posted on YouTube. And so I would suggest anyone who's interested in starting yoga but doesn't know where to start, go to YouTube. There's tons of teachers there, and they offer all kinds of classes from beginner to 10-minute classes to 5-minute classes, 20-minute classes. So just start there because you're in the safety of your own home.
Mhm,
No one's looking at you,
mhm,
and you can try different people, right? You can just say, I can only do 5 minutes today. And bear in mind that yoga is not just movement. So maybe you're not interested, I'm not interested in doing poses that I don't think I can do. Then look for breath work. Start there. That's seated.
mhm.
Anybody can sit and breathe. Or maybe you just want to do meditation and try that out. Look up meditation. Or maybe you just want to do meditative movement, which is slow and gentle. Type in the words that you think resonate with you, and it'll pop up on YouTube and you can try out all kinds of classes. I currently work on two wellness platforms for women over 40. And so I do yoga on those. But, there's so much out there now that you can start at home. There are even your local yoga studio might live stream classes.
Hmm.
So you could research a local yoga studio, see if they live stream a class, and then you can explore different teachers and classes from the comfort of your home. Keep your video off, if you don't want anyone to see you. And then once you build that confidence and you found that teacher in that class, you can go in person. Because a lot of women, they don't feel confident
Mhm.
body wise wearing the lycra because they think
Right,
they need to have a yoga body,
right.
whatever that means to them. So at home, video off, right? And the second thing is they feel like I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't want to look foolish. So get your poses down at home and then take it into a yoga studio because now you know when they say the name of the pose, which they'll say in English actually and Sanskrit. So you'll know what that is and you'll do it. I'm sure the teacher will demonstrate anyway. But so those are ways to build confidence before going into a live class. You don't have to go to a live class. If you're happy doing it online, stay online. I mean, I love teaching online and I do a lot of yoga online. Like my own practice is online with other yoga teachers because I prefer the comfort of my home. I'm not near anyone. There's always a space for me. There's nobody's trying to show off beside me, how much better they can do it or how much higher they can get their leg.
Yeah.
So but it's a different experience being home alone or in a yoga class. And some people like the energy from a live yoga class, an in person class. Yeah. So,
I love that though, because that way you can kind of find your zhuzh and figure out where it
exactly.
is that, where you're comfortable and it's giving you full autonomy over what works for you. And that's important for
Yeah.
us to have.
Yeah.
That's really, really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
we might have to do like a some type of class with you for the
So
community
I
at some
have
point. I would love that. So
to.
can you
Beginner
tell?
class.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. We might have to talk about that. Can you tell the viewers where they can find you?
Right.
Social
Yeah.
platforms, your class, if you got a website,
Yeah.
please share so that they can connect with you.
Well, the best place to connect with me is on Instagram at libbystevenson.wellbeing. I do have a website. I haven't updated it recently, but it's www.libbystevenson.wellbeing.com. But yeah, the Instagram is the best place. The website has my email if anyone wants to ask me questions or anything like that, or they can DM me through Instagram, but not everyone is on Instagram. Um, and yeah, and that's where I share a lot of information, but not just yoga based. I also like natural remedies, like so herbal remedies and
I love your page.
aromatherapy.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
thank you.
I'm on you for a while. Hence our conversation today, the
Yeah.
reason why you're here.
And I love yours that you're so, open and honest and sharing your story. So, yeah, so that's what I do. I mean, I don't diss HRT. I would never do that. I just share what works for me.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, and that's what it's all about. It's I mean, we can't speak on what works for other people. So
Right.
we put out,
Yeah.
what works for us, and
Yeah.
hopefully it can be helpful, to
Yeah.
a woman. And it's always you kind of like, you eat the meat and you spit out the bones. You take what,
Yeah.
can be good for
Works for
you.
you.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's all we
Yeah.
do, and add it to your
And
box.
exactly. And the yoga and the natural remedies that you share too work alongside HRT. So,
That's right.
yeah.
Because we need more. We just need, it's not just one thing. We need a whole plethora of things.
Correct. Yeah, correct.
Really,
Correct. And everybody, like you were saying from the very beginning, we're all different. So what works for me might not work for you, but you'll find what works for you. Yeah.
definitely will. But the key
Mhm.
is you have to get out there and do your due diligence. And
And
um,
right.
number one, you got to start with being at one with yourself and knowing and figuring out what it is that you're feeling, what emotions you're dealing with symptoms that are coming up for you, because again, they're going to be different for all of us at
Yeah.
any given time. And then, just searching and seeing what's out there so that you can get the help and support
Right.
that you need, because none of us
Right.
should have to deal with this alone.
No.
And that's why we
No.
have beautiful women, like you, that are out here on your journey and sharing and
Right.
giving and supporting. And we just need a lot more of that. So I
Yeah.
really, really appreciate you taking the time to sit down with me today. This has been amazing, and I cannot
It's
wait to.
been a pleasure. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's been a really interesting chat, and we covered a lot of topics.
you really did, and we can probably go on for days talking about menopause.
I think so. I think so. Yeah.
Well, thank you, Libby, so much for being here, and I'm pretty sure we will be connecting again soon in the
I
future.
would love that.
Oh,
And
thank
thank you for having me.
Oh, anytime.